Did we solve everything about the early FNAF games, other than FNAF 4? Scott said things like, everyone found every bit of lore and story, or that MatPat got almost everything right, but it doesn't feel that way. I'm sure the correct answers were given at some point, but it doesn't mean the fandom follows them. We still argue about many surface level topics like whether toys are possessed or not. It's been 10 years. One of many things that keep coming back is the FNAF 3 ending and the disappearance of Golden Freddy. Every few months people ask, why does it happen? What secret does that hold? But is it even a secret at all? That's just how lighting works. A shape in darkness will disappear if there's no light behind it. These discussions rarely get to any satisfying end because people don't want to be told it means nothing or stop overthinking it. There should be a reason Scott put the mask in the darkness and people just want to understand. So what is it? My approach at theorizing is to describe things. The fandom greatly favors connecting the dots, so many theories will talk about FNAF 4 and the Bite Victim or Ultimate Custom Night and how Golden Freddy moves on much later, but there's no way Scott meant any of that in FNAF 3, the final FNAF game at the time. I don't like this approach. Into the Pit came out recently and the biggest theory about that game isn't even about that game. There's Freddy Bully, that's all. My approach is to explain FNAF 3 using FNAF 3. The narrative and the purpose is very important, so we should describe everything even if it seems very obvious. FNAF 3 is a story of remnants, a tale of everything that remains after all these years. Springtrap says, I am still here. The victims killed William, but they still got no resolution. The owner of Fazbear's Fright has brought everything he could into one place, be it drawings, arcade machines, classic animatronic shells, toy animatronic shells, or Springtrap. All of these are the remnants of the Fazbear franchise and the William Afton crimes. And now, all three endings, the newspaper included, answer the very same question. What remained after FNAF 3? What was left after Fazbear's Fright burned to the ground? The answer is items left for the auction. The answer is Springtrap, or at least parts of its body. We have mascot heads, but in the bad ending, the souls also remain. The puppet is not accounted for, but I don't think it's a big deal. The meaning is clear. These items and souls remained. The difference between the two endings is the victims. In the bad ending, they still remain, but in the true ending, they move on, as we see in the Happy's Day. That includes Golden Freddy. It would be silly to assume that ghost number 1 disappeared because they moved on, the ghost number 2 disappeared because they moved on, but the ghost number 5 went elsewhere. It's not really a logical conclusion, especially after the Happy's Day. But there is something special about Golden Freddy because the mascot head disappears into the darkness. Why is that? The answer is the purpose of the mascot heads. What do you think is the relevance of Freddy's head in the true ending? Why is there an empty animatronic shell without a soul possessing it? That's because the mask remains. The souls have left the bodies they occupied for several decades. They moved on, but the bodies didn't follow, obviously. These shells are now truly empty and are left as a memento of decades of suffering. Or something along these lines. You can word it any way you want, but I think the overall meaning is clear. The victims have moved on, and the bodies they occupied remain, in a very emotional and beautiful ending. Now, Golden Freddy doesn't remain. The ghost has moved on, as the Happy's Day clarifies, but the costume has also moved on, or something. At the very end of the story, there are only 4 animatronic heads left, so what's the story here? I think the pizzeria minigames clarify that. The ending screen seems to parallel the scattered animatronic parts in front of the safe room. In these minigames, William never destroyed Golden Freddy. That's because the final ghost doesn't even have a body in the first place, it's just a ghost. It moves freely and it has no limitations surrounding the safe room, and so Golden Freddy's head never falls on the ground. We can also see that the Golden Freddy costume is nowhere to be found in Fazbear's Fright. Fondue never found it, and so this shell doesn't remain. The truth is, there's no Golden Freddy even in the bad ending. The shape you see in the background is only symbolic. It's a ghost with no physical body. Scott could have created a random source of light, but he decided on a more artistic expression. And so, to clarify, Scott put 4 animatronic heads in the spotlight. They represent what remains after the souls have moved on. He placed the 5th head in the darkness so it would disappear when the lights went out. In this case, the 5th victim is the only thing that gives it shape. It doesn't exist on its own, it's just a symbolic representation and a description of what this 5th source of light is. And now everyone moved on, they are gone, and only the 4 animatronic heads remain. That's my explanation.